Hello, this is H1. We're going to be running it back with another episode talking about chess knowledge, chess moves, chess understanding again. And today, I want to talk about a chess tip so that you can crush your opponents every single time when you get into a advantageous position. And the concept is initiative, what we're going to be talking about today. And I got a game that gives you a clear understanding of that. But what is initiative before we get into it? Initiative is when you threaten your opponent with a move that they cannot ignore at all. And usually initiative moves deals with checks, captures, and threats. All right, you got to watch out for those every time you're playing chess because you might be missing out on the opportunity to destroy your opponent. So let's get into this match right quick. Let me get this chessboard up. All right, so I got this game here. We're gonna be on the black side, and the black pieces, his name is Pitala, and the white piece's name is Anas. And so let's get into it right quick. This game actually starts with this move, E4, and then C5, that's going into the Sicilian defense, which is a very energetic opening that you can play with the black pieces. You already know that black is willing to fight if they play this move C5 after E4. Now, the game continued knight to f3, knight to c6, and then bishop to b5. So white definitely avoided doing the move d4, which would have went into the open Sicilian, but let's see how black plays this after this move, bishop to b5, going into the Rossolimo attack. Now, you have to know this, especially if you're playing the Sicilian defense, and I think most people, especially tougher opponents, usually go into sidelines of the Sicilian defense because the main lines is way too hard, too much theory, too many variations to remember, and so yeah, you're gonna see a lot more of bishop b5 than actually going d4. Unless white is about that life. Now, after this move d6, which we want to develop this bishop on c8, and where's this stick at? Okay. We want to develop this bishop on c8 and maybe do this move bishop to d7 to break this pin along this diagonal here. After this move d6, white is going to castle kingside because king safety is utmost important. Bishop d7, and then we have this next move, rook to e1, protecting that pawn on the e4 square. Now remember, we're on the black side, you know what I mean? We're on the winning side always. And after rook to e1, knight to f6, putting more pressure on that pawn on e4. And then we have the next move, c3. And so white's plan, what they want to do is c3, d4, and get like a center control with the two pawns on d4 and e4. They want to push in the center, and we can't allow them to exactly control the game continuously, all right? And so we need to make threats too. a6, making sure they know exactly what they're doing with that bishop on b5. After a6, bishop goes back to f1. This is all still theory. These are moves that you should be remembering if you're playing on either side. Bishop to f1, bishop to g4. And now, since that bishop moved back and didn't take, because if they would have taken our knight, we would have taken with the bishop. And yeah, we just have the double bishop advantage. We're not going to take with the pawn and mess up our pawn structure and leaving that a6 pawn isolated. We don't want isolated pawns. We don't want a bad pawn structure with our tougher opponent. Now, after bishop to g4 in this position, h3 attacking our bishop, are we going to capture or move back? That's the main question when our opponent attacks our bishop on g4. Are we going to move back or are we going to capture the knight? Well, in this game exactly, he decided to take the knight on f3, which is kind of weird. Why would black decide to take the knight on the f3 square? Well, after queen takes on f3, now we got this move g6. There's this concept that some players hate their bishops, all right? It is what it is, but there's actually a reason. And the reason is if this position stays closed, and by closed, I mean if there are still pawns on the D and E file on both sides and it gets locked up, they don't get exchanged, then in closed positions, knights are better. In open positions, bishops are better because there's more diagonals to go along the lines in the position, all right? But let's see how this plays out. After this move, g6, trying to fianchetto the bishop because activity is important always. And then we have this next move, a4. And white is trying to prevent us from doing this move b5 and gaining more space on the queen side. Whoever has more space has more moves, more options in the position. We can attack on the king side, queen side if we have more space. And then the person that doesn't have more space, they have a cramped position and they have less options to defend their side. And yeah, I don't know. If we start attacking, it's game over. So after this move a4, bishop to g7, field kind of went on the king side, and then we have the next move, knight to a3, which is weird because I know most people was like, okay, we could have put our knight to c3 if this stupid pawn wasn't right here on the c3 square, or we could have put our knight on d2 if they would have pushed up. But this is a common thing where they do knight to a3, knight c2, and maybe they want to push the d4 pawn to do a massive pawn break to control the center, because the center is the most important spot on the board, right? And the center is the e4, e5, d4, d5 squares. And so after knight to a3, kingside castle in this position, and nothing dangerous have really went on yet. They're just developing pieces, putting their pieces on squares that has a purpose, which is really important, all right? And when you become a stronger opponent, a stronger player in the game, you want to already be prepared of where you want your pieces to be at so that it goes along with your plan in the middle game. Now, after castle kingside, queen to d1, because that queen was a little bit out there where it could be threatened by a piece. And then we have our next move, knight to d7. The black pieces are already done developing. They already developed all their pieces. I mean, they could do an extra move like queen c7 to connect the rooks, but if you don't have a good square to put the queen at, you could just keep it right there and make sure that all of your pieces are usually doing something, okay? Now, after this move, knight to d7, there's a few moves that you could think that black is planning here. They're probably planning on pushing on f5. They probably want to put the knight on a better square, maybe knight b6 reroutes, or maybe like knight to e5 in this position. After knight to d7, knight to c2, planning on doing d4 or b4, either option. And then we got this move, queen to b6. After queen to b6, this stops the option of doing b4. I mean, I know we already got our bishop along this diagonal, so if they would have did b4, that c pawn would have been pinned along this diagonal, but you want to just make sure that all the options is taken care of the opponent. We want to think about our opponent's best moves than just our best moves, which is, you know, that's a crucial tip too. After queen b6, d3 in this position, and then we have rook a to b8. It's an inaccuracy, but the game still goes on. Knight to e3, and after queen back to d8, you already know black's plan here. Black's plan is b5. You could do b5 right now. This is a move that black could do, b5, and try to break through on the queen side. I mean, you might as well attack on the queen side since our fianchetto bishop on g7 is already targeting that diagonal, and so you're gonna have a little bit more threats along the queen side. That's our strong post. I mean, white should have been either attacking on the center or on the king side, but you know, they're still trying to reroute pieces to the best squares. After queen to d8, queen to c2, and then we got our next move, b5. Now we are rolling with the punches. Now there might be dangers in the position. And for some reason, black has this, the chess agent has this as a brilliant move. And actually it is strategically, because black is gonna have to do something. And this is that something, gain more space, threaten more pieces, and you wanna put the most pressure on an opponent so that they can crack in the position, because you want them to make a mistake, which humans do, and then we can eventually win the game. Now, after this move b5, a takes on b5, a takes on b5, and it might seem a little bit weird, but we did give our opponent the a file with this rook. But good thing is, the a file isn't a crucial thing in this position at this present moment, because we got moves like b4, we got maybe moves like f5 in the position that could be pawn breaks. Not right now, I'm not saying right now, but it's good to think about all the options in chess that you have here, or that you want to prepare. Now, after this move, a bishop to d2, very solid move, and then we have queen to c8. Queen of c8, which is, it probably is just stopping the rook from ever going to the a6 square, attacking our knight on c6, and it has probably another purpose. Maybe we want to go knight to d8 in this position. You just got to think, not every move, most beginners don't think that every move matters, especially looking at Grandmaster games, but every move matters, all right? And I know it's hard to figure out these moves because these Grandmasters just be doing some tricky stuff, like looking at a Magnus Carlsen game and then he does like an unsound move and then you're like, what the heck is going on? But as you play more chess, as you get better, you're gonna be like, oh snap, they're like 10 steps ahead already. So after this move, queen to c8, f4 in this position. They're trying to attack on the king side. They're trying to do moves like f5 and break through on the king side. And yeah, this is a battle. We might be in trouble, our opponent might be in trouble. Let's see what happens here. After e6, and now it's gonna be a little bit tougher to do this move, f5, and then we have this move, king h1. Usually if you see a king h1 move, they wanna like push all the pawns on the king side and do a pawn storm. Like I said before in a previous video, the two ways to attack a castled king is piece sacrifices or a pawn storm. It's either gonna be a piece attack or a pawn storm. And you're gonna have to figure that out, especially if you wanna attack a castled king. Now, after king to h1, b4, because we can't wait now. We already got our opponent's plan. They wanna do g4, f5, they wanna blow up the king side, and we're gonna have to hurry up and blow up the queen side. And you know, we're blowing up the queen side without even white doing c4. Now, after b4, rook e to b1, because you know, they want to open up the b file. And now if black tries to capture this pawn on c3, and then the b file opens up here. Now, with this move, queen to c7, black doesn't want to capture this pawn on c3, because if they capture the pawn, both of these rooks is going to be ultra powerful. And so queen c7, rook a6, putting pressure on this knight, and queen c8 is not directly attacking that square anymore, so why not put the rook right here, maybe double up, and white is going to have some play. Now, knight to b6, putting our pieces on good squares on the queen side, which we are the strongest. We have more space on the queen side, so why not reroute all of our pieces there? Our opponent isn't really doing nothing on the king side, so it's not really important, you know, like putting pieces over there. Even though we want to, like, you know, we want our pieces to be defending our king. Now, bishop e2, way too slow here, because they're trying to like go ahead with this position and attack on the queen side. But I mean, black did an inaccurate move too. The computer says that they should have did the move d5 here, which would have opened up the position astronomically. The pieces on d2 and e2, the bishops on d2 and e2 is very passive, and black might be thinking, okay, the position has to stay closed, because if the position stays closed, their bishops can't get activated. But the computer, they do moves like d5 and breaker principles, and we need to get ahead in time. And so after bishop to e2, queen b7, attacking that rook on a6. So they brought the rook back, because if they would have just doubled up on this file, then it would have been in danger still. These two knights is very important. And plus, black had moves like rook to a8 anyway, and most grandmasters, they want to keep pieces on the board so that they have more options to win against their opponent. The more options they have, the better the result is going to be. Of course, they're risking losing themselves, but you know, that's the risk that you have to take to beat your opponent. Now, after this move, rook a1, d5, now in black, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, because if they take, which I think they did, e takes on d5, e takes on d5 here, they keep the center control. This knight on b6 was a very important move to do this move d5, and now this knight is kind of looking silly. There's not really any forward moves instead of like knight to g4, and maybe this bishop can get activated here, which they do, bishop to f3, attacking this pawn here. But what does black do here? What is black's important move? Well, keep the center. Black has the center, white's pieces is looking a little bit passive if you think about it. If you think about like the rook on b1, what is it doing? That rook on a1 is the only like active piece on the a file, but it's really no purpose of being on the a file. That bishop on d2 sucks, it's garbage. And now we got bishop to f3, queen to d7, and then we have the next move, bishop to g4, attacking the queen. A major threat. And white is trying to get some initiative in this position. This is one of those moves where black has to do something or their queen is going to be captured. And this could lead to a chain of initiative moves, which grandmasters are really good at. Now, after queen to d6 in this position, this is where white gets in trouble. White gets in major trouble, actually. They do this very odd move, f5. f5 doesn't help out the position at all. And after f5, black is actually winning. Weirdly enough, black is actually winning. What do I mean by this? How come a normal move like F5, all the pieces are protected, there's no like forks or tactics in here. How is F5 just losing? Like, it seems like they're trying to attack the king side. This is when initiative moves matter. This is when attacking pieces matter. Finding forks, not finding forks, but finding good captures, finding checks means something. What do you think is the best move for the black pieces? Pause the video if you want to figure out the best move for the black pieces. All right, so in this position, black did this important move, D4. The top engine move, D4 in this position. After D4, you're attacking a knight. White is gonna have to do something about this. They're either gonna have to move the knight or capture the piece. But if they do, weirdly enough, if they do like C takes on D4, knight takes on D4, and all of black's pieces are in the game and all of white's pieces are pretty much silly, that knight is gonna be attacking the queen, and it's not just gonna end there after knight takes on D4. That's why white did the move knight to C4, thinking that this is the best choice that they have here in this position to attack the queen and maybe like keep it a little bit like keep their pieces not passive, all right? You want to, even though if you're losing, you want to make sure that your pieces are activated still. Even if you have to give away a piece or give away a pawn to make sure that your pieces are activated. That's the best counter options that you have here, which I will do a video on, like saving lost positions, all right? That is gonna come. Knight takes on C4, capture, white is gonna have to respond, D takes on C4, and all these moves are pretty much forced, and this is how calculation goes too. Now, after D takes on C4, now we have this move, D takes on C3, very powerful capture. And you might be thinking, well, why is it so powerful? Because can't white just do B takes on C3 here? Can't white just do B takes on C3 and then B takes on C3, bishop takes on C3, and everything is pretty good? White has an open position, they have the two bishops, so it can't be that much losing, right? Actually, you're wrong, and you have to find this very like crucial move like B3, which is exciting. This move B3 ruins all of white's plans. This move B3 ruins all of white's plans because their bishop is still a little bit silly. This F5 pawn is actually going against this bishop along this diagonal, and there's so many threats here that white is gonna have to handle. And just after this few moves, you're gonna see white's pieces get cramped, very cramped, to the point where it's really hard to play chess in this position. They do this move queen to C1, queen to C1. Black does this move queen to D3. Not the best move because the computer wanted the move knight to E5 here. Knight to E5 would have been attacking all the good squares like knight to D3, attacking the bishop, etc. But queen D3 is good too. Queen D3 actually made the made the opponent do a mistake, weirdly enough. And black is still winning. And that's how winning, that's how good active pieces are. Because you could do like one little mistake, even though it's not the best move. When all of your opponent's pieces are looking like this, when they don't have any squares to go, then it really doesn't matter. The position literally plays for itself at that point. After queen D3, the opponent did the worst move possible because they was trying to defend certain moves. They were trying to defend the position, and they did this move bishop to D1. After doing a move like bishop to D1, you should already know that you're losing. There's no hope. And bishop D1 blunders this very crucial tactic here, which is queen to F1. After queen to F1, this game is done. This game is completely done. White decided to resign here because after king H2, there's this other check, a bishop to E5, bishop to F4, bishop takes on F4, queen takes on F4, queen takes on F4, and they're literally just losing a queen here. And think about this. This initiative combination here started with the move D4. All these moves started with D4. And white was forced to follow up with every single move that black did here. All the threats that black did, white had to defend themselves. And that's what you want to do. That's like a crucial tip in chess that people should keep in mind, especially when you're trying to crush your opponent, all right? So let me take this chessboard off. Hopefully you learned something today. I want to do more videos, so put your suggestions in the comments section. Put your suggestions of which videos that you want me to create to help you on how to win more chess games, and keep on fighting to the end, staying focused in chess and in real life too. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget that.